Welcome everybody. I sent back again the link to the list of contact. So I hope that who was not reaching to get in will reach us. So just to make a small frame, as Bebe said, we are here today because we started the process the 14th of April that we called chain reaction, because the idea was to connect each other in a networking process that was meant to benefit of the fact that we were at home, and so we had a lot of time to speak each other, even if we couldn't visit each other. What we discovered, we started a kind of structured process in which we were inviting directors and professionals from different countries and asking them which was the situation in their country and which were the most important challenges that they were facing. So the structure we will have today will be the same. The idea is that this connection between us all together is a huge possibility to find a new solution to face this new normal that we are starting to face, and to find inspiration, new ideas to face all the changement and a zone of changement, as we have named, that are connected with the audience, with the funding, with our role, with the role of festival, asking ourselves how, in general, the big frame is, which is the important role of festival in this new normal, and how can we do, and how can we go on doing what we were doing before, or better, if there is something that maybe we can do better. So this is really the main frame. One important fact is that this process was started within networking process that put together 6 Italian festivals, and we want to have connection with international directors and colleagues, but also this is the occasion to show colleagues from outside, which is the panorama, the scene of Italian festival that sometimes are not so easy to be seen outside of the border. So just to make a quick tour of which are the festival. I am Cristina Cazzola and I direct Segni New Generation Festival. That is an annual festival that is at the last weekend of October and the first weekend of November. Then normally we have with us, yes, Raffaella, that I can see there. Raffaella, do you want to tell us when is your festival and where? Maybe. Raffaella, okay, no. I will speak for her just to make, because I can't see that she can speak. She's frozen. So Kids is a festival that is in Lecce at the end of the year, like during Christmas holiday and beginning of the year. So end of December, beginning of January. And then we go to Bologna. Bruno reached to get in, if I understood well, and Carlotta from La Baracca are here.
Yes, I did succeed to enter in the end, and we are a festival that takes place in Bologna called Visioni. Some of you probably already know it. This year it will change the dates, so normally it's at the end of February, beginning of March. This year probably will split in 2 due to the COVID situation. And we are partner of Chain Reaction.
Very well. Then this is February Bologna. Then we go to Castelfiorentino with another festival that is near Firenze. Vania Pucci is not here today with us from Giallomare Minimal Teatro, but it's a wonderful festival near Firenze that I suggest you to discover. And then we go to Porto Sant'Elpidio with Lorenzo.
Yes. Hi everybody, I'm Lorenzo Palmieri. The festival is I Teatri del Mondo, and it takes place this year from 12 to 20 of July. So it's very it's near, and we are almost ready. And Porto Sant'Elpidio is a little town in the Marche region, in the center of Italy, on the Adriatic coast. So that's
so
it.
you will receive the invitation, and if you want to join us
yes.
or start again to travel, feel free to do it.
Yes, from this Saturday we put the program on the website, so you can see everything.
And there will be one meeting that will be probably held in the festival, so with people live and with people connected online. That will be our first experimentation that we will try to have both live, online and offline.
It's better live.
See, even if we prefer live and to share a beer or a glass of wine with you.
Yes.
Last but not least, in October, Maria Giulia.
Hello everybody, I'm Maria Giulia from Trallallero Festival, which takes place in the first half of October, as Cristina said. And we are from Udine, which is in the north part of Italy, near Venice. Hello.
Okay. Very well. So these are the 6 festivals. There are also more than this, and I suggest you to discover us. And I let the floor to Bebe, that have been together with us from, I guess, the first or second meeting. And as you know, she's a really super networking woman. She's a partner of the Chain Reaction project that was, in the beginning, we were meant to visit other festival. Then, since we couldn't, we started to have a networking meeting online. And she was one of our partners. So now, today, she suggested to invite and to have an overview on North America. And so I let you the floor, Bebe, to tell us how and why you did this choice.
Yes.
Thank you.
So thank you, Cristina, and everybody from the Italian partners of Chain Reaction. This is really fantastic. And I wrote a little bit here, introduction, why I thought this was a good idea, and the people that are here today to meet all of you, because otherwise I could speak for 2 hours about it. Yeah, so I just wrote something. No? Yes? Okay. So I'm really delighted to collaborate with Chain Reaction here. As most of you know, I am on the board of Ipay, and I'm on the EC, the Executive Committee of Assitej. I'm always looking for ways of making connection of the 2 organizations. For me, it's something like Ipay is the action, and the Assitej side of my work is the dreaming. And now things are starting to, we are dreaming a lot at Ipay, and we with a lot of action in Assitej in the last years, which makes everything the more exciting. I have come to Ipay for the first time in 2015, just to explain to you why there are 3 people from Ipay here, yes. 3 different point of views, and this is really, it mirrors just my experience and my wonder for this organization. I came invited by Boomer to talk about this festival thing I did, which was mainly finding ways of bringing companies from Europe and Canada to Brazil, to festivals in Brazil in 2015. And since this was really the word of the moment, pivot moment in my career or in my work, because I started to see myself as the person looking for the place for the voice of Latin America in the world. And on this way, I met like the whole ecosystem of TYA. It's not only North America, it is more and more international. And I will let Boomer and Wendy and TJ talk about that. So complementing the guests lists, we have Mary Rose from the New Victory Theatre. I just thought about it. Yes, New Victory for me is the lighthouse in terms of innovative programming in the US, and also the education, research, and the laboratories that they do. It is a benchmark program. It is really, it applies like New York, New York. If you have made it there, you can make it anywhere. It is just amazing how in a landscape that is in a way very conservative, if we compare with some countries in Europe, how much forward is what she implemented there for years. And it's really like a lighthouse. And completing here, Lynda Hill from the We Festival in Toronto, who has great connections with Small Size, La Barraca, also many other. So all of them are the ones opening the doors for us Europeans. Now I'll put my European hat here, but also Latin America in North America. And Lynda is here just one festival of so many festivals in Canada. So she will also give us an idea of what are they doing there, how does it look like. So yes, so that's my friends from the other side of the pond, like we say, no? So very happy to be here.
Very well, thank you, Bebe. So let's start with this overview, with this journey in the other side of the world. I will start really by a random criteria that is where I see you. So maybe Mary Rose, do you want to start? Here you are, the floor.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody, and thank you for having me. It's great to see you all from my apartment where I've been for 3 months. As Bibi said, I'm the artistic director at the New Victory Theater in New York. We are not a festival. We are a theater that programs work for young people and families year-round. We don't produce that work, we are presenters. So we are looking for work to bring into our theater, at least pre-COVID, that's what we were doing. I was asked to briefly state kind of what the COVID impact has been in our current situation. Should I go on to that? Is that what you want to hear? Yeah. Okay. So in early March, as we were getting ready to welcome the Cola marionettes from Italy, the COVID was happening, certainly in China and absolutely in Italy. And I was called into a meeting at my organization, and where we discussed kind of the world situation. And I think I was just sort of in denial or something, because it was brought up that we should perhaps cancel the performance. And I was that is just reactionary crazy. Why would we do that? And as the meeting continued, I saw that that not only were we going to need to cancel and that show that was coming like the next week, I think, for a 2-week run, a company who we've had 3 other times before, we have a great relationship with, we were indeed going to have to cancel the entire season. At the end of that week, as of, I think it was Friday the 13th, we were all working from home, and here we still are. We canceled the rest of our season, which it would have ended in May or early June, and we canceled our dance series that would have been this coming up July. And we have not announced what we're going to do next season, but it is unlikely that we will have any live performances until next summer. Probably not until a year from now, which is devastating for all of us. This is a ridiculous, crazy place we find ourselves in, working in theater, where the point of it is to gather closely. So we are. We have been, and I guess we'll get to this too, I don't want to take up too much time in the intro, but we are taking time to post educational materials that we kind of crazily threw together really, really fast, but they've been really successful, called Arts Breaks, that we put out, and you can find them on our Facebook page and our website, that are art form based, because usually the education program is making work that's connected to the work that I'm bringing to the stages, but there's no work on the stages. So we are kind of going back in our history, looking at shows that we've had before and what kind of art, and putting art forms together, and hiring teaching artists to help us talk through different activities that families can do together while stuck at home. They come out on Monday, and there's an activity for every day of the week. We have turned our summer dance series that we canceled into a virtual victory dance series, where the same companies that we programmed will be featured, but we will only be posting sort of excerpts of the work with the choreographers introducing their work. And then again, our teaching artists making wraparound material around that particular choreographer and that particular style of dance. Those can be used like they would normally if they were live in the summer camps and summer schools here in New York that are all virtual right now. And will also be released for our family audiences. And then we are, schools, they say, are going to be back in September. They haven't announced exactly how, whether that will be every other day to space out the number of students, or what, but there will be no field trips, and there will be probably not a lot of visitors into the schools. And so we are working on all of our materials, particularly educational, to be maintained online, and are in discussion now about what we will look like next year and how we will house and provide artistic content to our audiences in a different medium. How or if, actually, we will provide that for people. You know, archival video of theater isn't how theater is meant to be experienced, as you all know, and it's not so interesting for me. And so we're looking at ways of creating some original content, but we're sitting in this moment in New York, in the US, North America, of COVID, of Black Lives Matter, of economic craziness, presidential election in November, people, come on. And then post-election, you know, which will be either amazing or just our worst nightmare. So, you know, there's a lot going on over here that we are working working with and working to balance and working to reassess kind of what we are.
You'll get rid of them. You'll get rid of them.
I don't want to count. I honest to God, I just am terrified. I don't know. People are crazy here. They may
you have to get rid of them.
I know. Otherwise, I'm coming over there because I can't do it. I can't do it another 4 years. I can't do it. Anyway,
our doors are open.
Thank you. And
we can welcome you in Italy. Don't worry. So I don't know if it's a good choice, but let's go on. Thank you, Mary Rose, for this super overview. I will give the floor to Lynda Hill if you want, and then we come for a round turn and we will have time for questions and things like that. Thank you, Lynda.
Thank you very much. Just a short bit about the WE Festival. The WE Festival is a very new festival in Canada. It emerged out of the company that I led for 18 years, which was called Theatre Direct Canada. Our WE Festival has had 4 editions and was about to have its 5th edition in May. We are focused on works for early childhood, so 0 to 6 years old. We have a strong program of both work from UK, Europe, and Canada, Quebec, and we place a lot of emphasis as well on investing on some new work to try and increase the amount of work from Canadian artists, Indigenous artists, culturally diverse artists. And so we are now increasing more and more our commissioning and development of new work, so that we have better support for the Canadian movement of theater and arts for early childhood. Yes, like everyone, we canceled, I think it was March 13th, we made the decision as well to cancel. And we went through, yes, this process of just going flat, going quiet, crying a little bit, and then looking at what was the right approach around the digital piece, because for us, the idea of bringing work, encouraging 2-year-olds to sit in front of a screen just didn't make any sense to us. And so, and I really learned a lot from watching what other people were doing, other festivals were doing. And so we made two decisions. We thought about an important part of our audience are educators and university theater students, theater studies students, and programmers and presenters. And so we've always had a really good presence of post-secondary students attending and observing the festival. So I decided that we would invite 9 of the productions into in a way, a study and performance practice, an overview of a wide range of work for very young audiences. And we had 9 of our productions from the festival over 2 weeks, screened for an invited group of university students and also artist guests. Bebê was a guest at one of our events. And so the morning was for the European companies and the afternoon was for the companies from Quebec and Canada. And it was terrific. You know, it was an opportunity to get to know more about the practice and approach of the artist, to see the work in context. Yes, it was an archival, but everyone was clear. We're looking at the work. And then an extended interview with the artist. So about 90-minute sessions. And I think we converted 45 graduate students into lifelong obsessed lovers of theater for early childhood. So that made us quite happy. And it occurred to us that this kind of, in a way, this kind of programming in the context of some maybe larger conference activity could be something that we could continue with in the fall. Expanding and including other universities and expanding the number of artists that are attending these events. We also commissioned a number of digital, would be just called digital sparks, so little 5 to 10 minute works created especially for the screen. So we have 2 that are online now, another 3 that are coming soon. And we maintained our commitment to our seeded and commissioned works. So I continue to provide dramaturgical support to those artists, and they will just continue over the summer writing and creating, and then we will determine whether or not they will be presented perhaps in a live stream context with a small invited audience, distanced audience in the fall in order to support their development process. So in terms of other digital solutions, we're really not sure. It could be live stream work with small audiences. It could be that we don't do anything. We just continue to create some educational supports for our audience. With the children going back to school, we think they're going back to school in September, but we're pretty certain that there's not going to be much interest in having the artists present in the schools until maybe mid-November, maybe not until January. So there's a lot of uncertainty that way. So I've talked too much, except I want to say that the digital piece is going to stay with us. And I think that what I've embraced about this experience is the note I've taken is that regardless of whether we're in a COVID or non-COVID world, I think it behooves us here in Toronto, given the vast geography of our country and of our particular province, to continue to find ways to engage our more remote or isolated audiences through digital content, either through live streaming or filmed productions of our work, because we know, especially with Theatre for Early Childhood, when we're only talking about 100, maybe sometimes 50 children in an audience, we're not able to provide as much access and inclusion for many children in schools beyond downtown Toronto, but also many families or parents that are isolated with very young children at home. And the digital format also allows us to apply more consistently audio description and captioning of work for children and families that could benefit from that additional access. So I'm embracing it, and I'll continue to have that as a strong companion or support to our work going forward.
Thank you, Lynda. Luckily, you said that you didn't have any solution. So I think that I took a lot of notes about things that we may have done and that we didn't. So in those meetings and in other meetings, I'm sure that you have been listening about the word alliance. I think that all the solutions that you have been practicing are in this frame of alliance. I really like this idea of having a discussion or empowering people and new audiences like these students that maybe didn't know about Theatre for Early Childhood, and now they know. This is something that is, for me, it's really an inspiration. But let's go somewhere else. Let's fly somewhere else. Wendy, would you like to tell us how was the situation and how did you face, or like your colleagues did, a few ideas or solutions that maybe you practice it?
I actually am going to pass this to Boomer and let him start, because he and TJ and I are all going to cover different aspects of Ipay and how we've faced the challenges that have come about with COVID. So I'm going to hand the cyber mic over to him right now. Okay,
great. Boomer, thanks. More than happy to have you with us. Some of us knows you because you have been touring a little bit in Italy, and we will be very happy to have you again, as all the other guests.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Wendy. Thanks, Cristina. I'm actually calling in from just outside Toronto, which I also want to acknowledge as the traditional and treaty territory of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nations, Mississauga peoples, and the treaty territory of the Chippewas of Georgina Island First Nations. Thanks for the invite. It's nice to be included here. It's nice to see so many familiar faces. I very much look forward to returning to Mantova and to some of the other festivals. And also, I just want to thank everyone for doing this in English. It's such a privilege to be able to do this in my only language. So thank you. I know for many of you, this is your second or third. So I really appreciate that. Ipay, for those of you that aren't familiar with it, is an organization that supports international networking and touring. We're multi-genre, so we're basically performing arts for young audiences, focusing on professional work and really focusing on the touring of that work and that global network. We're probably best known for our major event, Showcase, which takes place in January of each year. And really it is a marketplace event in which we showcase work that has been selected by a jury. And so it's a global gathering of presenters, artists, agents, educators, anyone who dedicates themselves to professional performing arts for young audiences. We are known for that event more than we are known for the organization. So part of the challenge that we're looking at right now is really the same challenge that festivals and artists are concerned with, is we are a live event. How do we take a live gathering place a hub for connection, and how do we transform that to something that can exist in a digital realm? How do we continue to maintain relationships? How do we continue to support the community? We pride ourselves on being fairly diverse in terms of the people that are coming to the table. So again, it's representing the needs of artists, of agents, of presenters, of producers. So while we hear often that we're all in this together, we recognize that there's a huge range of things that means for many people. Yeah, we all have different needs in this. Even if you just look at the realm of artists, independent small artists have very different needs than large established companies. And so we're trying to recognize all of that, and to in our solutions recognize that it can't be one stop fits all or one solution fits all. There needs to be a diversity of solutions or opportunities for people. And so just very, very briefly in terms of trying to take Showcase, which traditionally is a 4-day event, which happens in Philadelphia with about 500 people joining us from around the world, and recognizing that we can't just take that and make a 4-day online event of people coming together on their computers and watching video. No one wants to do that. We have no interest in trying to do that. And so we're trying to unpack the essential elements of what that gathering place means to people. How do we continue to inspire? How do we continue to provide opportunities for people to connect, whether that's one-on-one or in larger groups? How do we provide opportunities for touring? How do we begin to address the challenges that people are facing, and unpack that and offer that in a way that we're trying to meet as many of those needs as possible? So just very briefly, some of the things that we're looking at is a Showcase in Place series, which would be a regularly occurring monthly or 6-week cycle of showcasing opportunities in which we would share productions from around the world. It could be thematically focused. And so the first one would be the official selection committee results. We would showcase that work. The next period of time could be Indigenous artists or artists of color from around the world producing work for young audiences. The next one could be based on age and productions for young audiences under the age of 5. So we would schedule an ongoing basis of opportunities to see new work, meet the artists, have critical conversations about the work, talk about aesthetics, artistic process, provide opportunities to look at touring, meet the agents, connections to block booking. Another idea we're exploring is we have an app that we use for the conference through Attendify. That's something that we're able to maintain and offer on an annual basis. And so it'll be an opportunity for people to connect. If you sign up to join a video or a session like this and you find someone interesting that you want to talk to, you could go to the app, you could click on their link and have a private conversation with them. And so it provides a means for an ongoing conversation out of a platform like this. It's not as good as going to the bar afterwards and sharing a Lambrusco with somebody, but at least it's an opportunity to connect and go further. We're also looking at connecting with festivals. This is, I think, very connected to your idea, Cristina, of alliances. Recognizing that most festivals have some kind of international delegate series, but that's going to be very limited and probably very national for the next year. So we'd like to partner with festivals and create a way for us to bring international delegates virtually to your festival. And so it would be an opportunity to showcase the work that's on your roster for the year, as well as an opportunity to connect with, again, with sessions like this, where international delegates could connect to the people that are physically attending your festival. It'd be an opportunity to promote the festival to new presenters. It also starts to address issues of accessibility, carbon footprint, travel. It provides an ongoing means to connect to places you wouldn't normally be able to attend. And then the last thing, and then I'll shut up, is recognizing that it is important to have live gatherings. We're working on something that we're calling at the moment Tribes of 49. And so at the moment, it sounds like 50 is the magic number of the next gathering. In the next few months, we'll be allowed to have gatherings of up to 50 people. And so we would do a call out to our members around the world to host their own Tribes of 49. And so I would host a gathering in Toronto. Cristina could do one in Milan. Bibi could do one in Santiago and or Cologne. And so we would each have our own live gathering at the same time and connect virtually to each other. And so it's combining a live element along with a virtual element. I keep making these ideas up and then we have to figure out how we're actually going to do them.
These Tribes of 49 is, I am like, wow. That means, sorry, just because I know all the, our guests will be, I mean, I'm just more open and showing my emotion, but I feel that everybody's like bubbling, sparkling with this idea. That means that you can have a meeting with 49 people like this day in the month in your city, and I will have a meeting with 49 people the same time zone connection, and we can speak together and have a connection.
Yeah, and we can share food and share drink and.
That means let's do what we were doing during the lockdown from our house, like having the aperitif, drinking or on Zoom. But since we can be together 49 person, that will be not 2 of us, but almost 100.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or more. I signed for the experiment.
Thank you. I already wrote your name down. I'll pass the mic now, but
okay.
But those are just some of the things that we're working on. Thank you.
Yeah, because we will come back to you and to all of you, because you are putting on the floor a lot of interesting things that we want to dig deeper. So TJ, maybe, am I right? Where are you?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, ciao, nice to see you.
Thank you for passing it on so that I can just say, that sounds wonderful. And my job is to figure out how to pay for it. So don't get too excited. So I am the managing director at Ipay. I've been at Ipay for about 2 years now, based in Philadelphia, where we have our conference every year. And I focus on fundraising and management of all other things that Boomer did not talk about. I think one thing that is misunderstood about fundraising is that it's not just about asking for money. It's not just about, you know, submitting grant applications. I need to survey the, you know, landscape and see what are people buying, what are people interested in, what are they not buying, what is the taste of the moment, what's the flavor of the moment. I need to look at who's giving, who's not giving in this current year, and that changes drastically from year to year. And I also need to look at data in different sectors. For example, in the hotel sector, in the, you know, travel and like, you know, venue sector as well. So I can't just stay focused on the great work that we do in this sector. But what that does mean is that when we do go to make a decision about what our programming looks like, we're doing so not just off of what we know about the, you know, arts sector. We're doing so based on what we know about all sectors combined and how they, you know, tie in with what we do. So when you drop in COVID on top of all of that, it becomes more complex because the different sectors react to such a thing in very different ways, and that largely depends on how much money they had in the first place. So what we see in the arts is more of a struggle to get finances, to get funding for shows. What we see in the hotel industry is a massive, you know, scaling back of staff, of space, things like that. And so that sort of translates into who is actually giving money and why are they giving money. It is much more difficult now to make a case that you should support my amazing performing arts showcase when we know that there are families, you know, going hungry, that there are families that don't have housing, so on and so forth. And so we we need to start making, or we have to start making a case for how the arts fits into those things. And that is something that I think internally within the sector, we've always sort of known that arts are essential, but it's not something that has permeated throughout these other facets. And so that has become even more important with the work that I do now, is to say, yes, I'm absolutely still asking you for money, and here's why I'm asking you for money. And it's not to say that my showcase is more important than, you know, feeding families, that's more important than housing, that's more important than healthcare. It's not more important, but those things will never get done well if you continue to leave out the arts. The benefit is that we focus on arts for young people. Yay! It is super easy to convince people to fund the future, to fund youth. And one thing that we see now is that as more and more parents have had their kids at home with them for 2 to 3 months or more, there are more people who can now see what we've been trying to say for the past 100 years, right? Is that your kids need something else besides just math and art, and besides like math and science, right? They need movement, they need music, they need sounds, they need theater, they need all of these things in order to have a well-rounded brain, right? And so we have those people on our side now where we did not so much have them before. So that's one, I think, solution. And the second solution, which I think Boomer highlighted with the Tribes of 49, is partnerships. When there was more funding available, it was easier for us to want to compete with each other. Now that that pot has become small, very, very small, you can't even see it. Now I think is the time for us to think about, okay, who has a similar mission to mine? Who has a similar vision to mine? And how can we combine and do this work together? Because we only have $50. Maybe before we had $100 and you could take 50 and I could take 50. Now that we both only have, you know, 50 to work with, I don't want to see you disappear. I don't want to see X company disappear. Yes, we are sort of like, you know, competing, but you have a separate group of children and families that you serve that we don't want to see your work, you know, leave them entirely. So now we have to figure out, how do we do the same work together with that same $50 that we had before? And so, yes, that's where we are, sort of serving the landscape, seeing where the money is flowing, where it's not flowing, and continuing to convince people that the arts are essential, and partnerships. And I'll pass it to Wendy.
Yes.
Great, thanks, TJ.
Thank you. Very thanks, TJ. This is also a lot of energy and inspiring energy. And the fact that this idea of looking at the same, I mean, let's call it target, but the same mission, who has our alliance through the fact that we look for the same mission. This is something that we really need to start to do, because we were not used to do that. We have been thinking for time. I am just a little bit convinced that if people are not aware about the importance of art, is because we were not that good in making alliances. And we were like fighting, as you said, we are the best one, you need us. I mean, you need all of us, help together with art, not health or art. So you really have us. We have been speaking about all in previous meeting about this, and it's nice to hear with which kind of energy and point of view you look at that in the other side of the world. Wendy, thanks for being with us today.
I'm so excited. Thank you for having me. I want to acknowledge that I both reside and work on the unceded land of the Lenape Delaware First Nations, and also want to offer my thanks for having this conversation in English. My only other language is very rudimentary German, which I pronounce badly. So thank you for that. I know that that is, I just recognize the privilege of having that conversation. in my spoken language. So thank you. I'm kind of wearing two separate hats or bringing two different perspectives to this conversation. One is as an independent artist. So in my professional career, I'm a freelance director and dramaturg. I focus on developing new work with a specific focus on work for young people, and also on work that serves individuals with autism and who are classified as neurodivergent. So when COVID really hit, and I reside in the state of Pennsylvania, and the governor shut things down, immediately all of my upcoming contracts for work for the next 4 months were canceled. So all my sources of income disappeared overnight. What was challenging immediately after that were the organizations that I normally am paid by to do work started offering content online for free, which in the short term was a wonderful resource because all the students were staying home from school. Theaters were had a strong desire to stay connected to their community and to their audiences. But what has happened in the long term is that now my livelihood as an independent artist is less possible because all of these organizations are giving away free content. Why does anybody want to pay me to do what I do? They also have the advantage of a digital platform being much more scalable and able to reach a much larger number of individuals than I can as a live face-to-face person. So recognizing that I was in a little bit of an impossible situation as an independent artist, I shifted gears, and thankfully, my husband was not furloughed from his job, and so he was able to continue working. And I joined a group of individuals on Facebook who were sewing fabric face coverings and masks for communities in need, and they are called the Anti-Sewing Squad. So I took my free time and started to put it towards this organization, and we've been focusing mainly on serving First Nations communities in the United States and immigrant communities where there's very high need, but very low funding, if any funding at all, coming in. The reason I mentioned them is because I have learned a lot from the grassroots organization that this sewing squad was able to mobilize very rapidly, and how quickly they were able to scale from just a few people in Los Angeles sewing masks and getting them to their local community to now a nationwide network of people who are taking pledges from communities in need, reaching out to somebody that they know has the capacity to sew this many masks in this amount of time, figuring out who's going to mail them where, or actually physically drop them off, and then making all of that happen. It's been a wonderful learning experience for me as a board president, now shifting to my Ipay world, in how a small group of people can mobilize very rapidly by kind of throwing the rule book out the window. I think our response in moments of crisis is to stay in a safe place and to go to the things that are familiar to us because we know that they can be successful, and we're feeling a lot of fear in that moment. So we're operating from the part of our brain, the amygdala, which is where our fight, flight, or freeze response lives. We don't make our best decisions when that's the part of our brain that's activated. So what this sewing squad started to allow to bubble up in how I could use that in my leadership for the board was to recognize that, first of all, that each of our board members, as they're spread internationally, are coming from a very different phase of crisis. Some are much earlier. Some were affected by COVID much earlier. Some were affected much later, and recognizing that everybody was at a different place in their journey and really giving us permission to to each other to sit in that space of unknowing or of discomfort or ambiguity for whatever time that person needed to process what was happening in their country before they were ready to come in and start to get to work. So part of what that taught me was just patience and really meeting people where they're at when I was looking for alliances and help in getting work done. The other thing that has been really challenging is normally at this time of year, we would be gathering together as a board face-to-face for 2 days in Philadelphia to really get the bulk of our work done for operational changes, for programming for the future, and not having that face-to-face interaction has been incredibly challenging when we have board members that are spread across 7 time zones and our biggest time difference is 15.5 hours. So when you line all of those up, we have 2 times during the day where for about 90 minutes, we can all be together and none of us is up in the middle of the night. So we've really had to rethink, how do we work together as a board when we can't meet face-to-face, and we've had to spread our meeting out over 4 different chunks. The other alliances that I have sought out, and again, it's because all my contracts were canceled and now there is time in front of me that I want to put to use, is to get much more active with the local political leaders in Philadelphia. We don't have the kind of cultural and arts institutions that many other countries have here in the United States that provide funding directly to arts or to festivals or to artists to go and travel. So we heard about a month ago that Philadelphia was planning to cut all of the funding to the Philadelphia Cultural Alliance and to another major grant maker from whom Ipay receives funding. And immediately I started getting in contact with those council representatives to make the case for Ipay, to ask them questions about why they were making the choices they were making in the budget. And it was surprising to me to get personal responses back that weren't just kind of template emails. They were actual responses to some of the questions that I asked. And it allowed me to open up a dialogue with them that normally I would not have had. None of them were aware of Ipay. We have a small footprint because we are not what they consider a direct service organization. We're an ecosystem globally, but I can't tell them, yeah, we serve 30,000 students a year with the shows that we bring to Ipay. We don't have that kind of a footprint of direct impact. We have what they think of as secondary impact. So this has also been an opportunity for me to really hone my advocacy and how I speak about the benefit of Ipay as a cultural institution within Philadelphia and the space beyond, and why it's essential to the local and international ecosystem.
Wow, another point of view, another important, let's say, really sharp and a new, let's say, direction of looking at all this. I mean, sorry, a lot of information. I was chatting with Bebe because all of you are, we didn't doubt of it, but now we feel it and we are experiencing it. So we are so curious to know everything from you. We are just changing all the setting of our meeting. So I will give the floor to Bebe because we want to, and now we will open the microphone and the floor to other colleagues that are with us.
Yes, I'm sure.
Just a little bit. Bebe, go ahead.
Yes, I am sure everybody's fascinated to listen to each other, and this is absolutely amazing. So we just fastly that menu, we threw it away in the garbage bin, the recycling bin. And
only stupid people never change their mind. And me and Bebe, we are really clever, so we
can prove that we can change our minds. Yeah, we are very strong, opinionated women, but we can change our minds.
Exactly.
And it is really I'm sure if someone that doesn't know how the United States works and all this, you could have a good idea now, but we will not know if we don't have somebody as an agent. From the agent point of view, agents are very important in the United States. If you want to tour in the United States, you need most of the time. I mean, I watched today a whole talk of Boomer at Barbaro. Why was I not invited to that festival? Talking about agents and how you plan a tour and what's about small companies. And I really would love Spring or Sarah to say something about your point of view in this situation. Hi, Sarah. So,
hi, everybody.
Sorry to throw you here now.
No,
and I didn't have time to put some lipstick on, but please,
I'll take my hair down.
This would be amazing. Yes.
So we are definitely struggling.
Please introduce yourself because sorry.
So my name is Sarah Saltwick. I'm one of the 3 co-directors at Holden and Arts Associates. We're a 37-year-old organization that's represented touring work in all different ways. In the last 10 or 12 years, it's really become fully focused on work for young people and their families. We love international art. The company was founded by Michael and Teresa, and they've done a lot. Michael and Teresa Holden, who retired a couple of years ago, and myself, Spring, and Stacey have stepped into the leadership after working as the staff for a long time. We all have a passion for international art, love to travel, love to bring the things we see across the world to our audiences. We work with venues all over the country, and it's really thrilling to build long-term relationships with our international artists and these cities and small towns, and have a company come back again and again. There's a venue I often think of that's in Orange, Texas, which is, there's an art museum, there's a venue, there's not a lot else going on. They draw from about 2 hours away to fill that venue. And they've been seeing this incredible international work year after year after year that comes out of routed tours, that comes out of us getting about 10 or 14 weeks of work for an international company, starting in one place of the country, driving. So it's a lot of assembling tours, of putting people in the right spot. And that kind of work isn't possible right now. You know, we had 11 companies on the road in March. All those tours were canceled. I would say 75% of our tours for 2021 have now been canceled at this point. So we're thinking about 21, 22. We're also thinking about how to branch out this model of the contiguous tour, of going from city to city to city to city over a long stretch of time, has served us and our artists really well. It also means if things crumble, they crumble all over. Okay. So I think we're interested in having some things that can just work a little differently. So we are not all, not all our tours look the same. And just talking to our artists and supporting them about how to make decisions, and really trying to keep everybody safe and healthy, but also trying to get people working again. So having lots of big conversations and trying to, we don't know how to be working in this world, and be honest about that, and be willing to experiment. Yeah, that's a little of the agent world.
I have before that Bebe gives the floor to another agent point of view, I have a direct question. What happens in your country with cancellation, with canceled performances? I mean, is there a policy or law or anything?
So for in March, in April and May, for those engagements, we had all had fully executed contracts. Okay. But though all the cancellations fell under force majeure, so it released the venue from having to pay. And on the standpoint of where we had an artist who needed us to cancel something because our state shut down at different rates. So we had some artists who decided early, we have to go home, and they needed to cancel engagements that were coming up that the venue hadn't canceled yet. So that same clause gave them the ability to do that without financial pressure. But it basically meant no one made any money. So, you know.
I was in this kitchen table. Was it a kitchen? Now I'm like, which was
it was a kitchen table
it was a kitchen table of West Coast, Midwest, or some kind of geographical definition. And I was so surprised to hear the programmers of these huge cultural centers that exist in the States saying that they paid the deposit that was paid could stay with the artists, the preoccupation, which was like, I was like, I never thought about that. And so, as Europeans used to, at least in Germany or in Scandinavia, in the UK, of a lot of funds to fund the work we do. And we know in the States, it is a completely different thing. It was such a surprise to hear this. So how they really worried about protecting, because it's a big investment to go to tour in the United States.
Yeah, some of our companies were able to hold on to their deposits, which were about 20% of the fees. Maybe a third. Some venues don't pay deposits at all. A lot of venues needed their deposits back, especially as the pandemic went on and they had to furlough more staff and more people were laid off. But we were able to hold on to some of those. It was really a venue by venue conversation. And part of our work in March, April, and May was sharing how much our companies had lost and just trying to get what we could in terms of those out-of-pocket costs covered. Yeah, because all their costs had already been out.
For the visa. But what I heard today, I don't know, I heard in some meeting, so I only make notes, I don't remember anymore. Yes, it was in this talk from Barbaro. It was Paul from Cahoots saying, Boomer, correct me if I'm wrong, how they had like 65% some years ago of their budget with funding and all this, and how they changed it, that now it's 65% on fee-based. And this is the key for countries that don't have mobility funds. So touring, large tours like you organize, this is also when we think about sustainability that we talk so much about now in Europe. Just to fly for a festival 4 times, playing and coming back. When you're having a 3 weeks tour where you are playing 20, 30 times, so this changes completely your carbon footprint. So these are some things, some models, some alliances. Also, the concept of block booking, I would like perhaps Boomer to talk a little bit more about this, because I don't think everybody understands the concept. And this is really something that we in Europe could very well look and get some ideas.
I think what Cristina was trying to say was, here in Italy, they're trying to suggest us as venues to reschedule the lost shows in the next season. It is not a law, but it's kind of a suggestion.
A gentle agreement.
Yes, a gentle agreement, just not to make every single company lose everything. It's also a hard thing, also because you do not know anything about next season anyway, because the next season is, it hangs on a rope, on a wire. So it depends on what it's going to work, how it's going to work. So the question was, how is in your country?
Yes, perhaps Mary can answer.
Yeah, I was reaching for
as a presenter. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like was said, it's sort of venue to venue. I've been looking at rescheduling. I mean, because, you know, I had not just March to the current date canceled, but everything next season, which had already been planned. It wasn't contracted yet, but it was penciled in and ready. And that's all been canceled. And so I'm hopeful that I'll be able to the shows that will still be going and that want to come and that can come, we will do. You know, we're also sitting in a moment where we're trying to be really responsive to the world right now and what artists want to say right now and what's important for kids to be talking about and thinking about right now. And that might not be a show that was made 5 years ago, you know? So there's a little bit of that curatorial thing where I'm in a mode of, you know, I need to try to be as supportive as I can of stories that are being made now in response to what's happening to young people now, and cultivating that new work as well. But when we canceled, if that's the question, we got the companies that were that had already been contracted to, we basically paid for any out-of-pocket expenses so that they weren't out any money. So if they had already, you know, we do the visas for everybody, but if they had already, you know, paid the freighter company to freight, you know, their cargo, or if they had out-of-pocket plane tickets that they couldn't get refunded, anything that they couldn't get covered, we covered. And so it was, you know, I mean, in our venue at least, it's a lot cheaper to be dark than it is to be lit with a show. And so, you know, we were looking at saving money for not having the shows in. And so it was, you know, in order to keep everybody, which we have so far, we've kept everybody on payroll, and we have a pretty big staff. Now that we know we don't have tickets to sell for next season, that's starting to look a little bit different, and we're probably going to have to do some furloughing here and there. But for the companies that were canceled, they were, we paid their expenses, and then we also have talked to many of them about coming back. But like I said, you know, that won't be until possibly fall of 21, right? So a year from this fall, and I have to look at what that looks like and what that world feels like, and how to decide what shows are best to make up that season. Does that answer question? Yep.
Yes, definitely.
I think that in this moment we don't have one answer, as Boomer and as every one of us said, because it's any situation has a different solution. I think that the important fact that we shared and we listened to, you know, other meetings, that somehow we are all trying to do our best to support our sector. This is a nice feeling, because this is one important thing that I would love to enlighten, because we were not feeling that in the past time. We were just more in a kind of a race and a fight, one against each other. So this is one of the, for me, the positive side of the coin. I have been starting to listen to people I have never heard the voice, because I am starting to be more curious of my colleagues. So this is the nice part. Then it's really a complex moment. I don't know if, Boomer, I mean, if you're following the chat, it's sometimes even more interesting than what we say when I speak mostly, not the others. So I'm like in a kind of crisis. I want to listen to deeper. So Kate was telling some interesting things, and Matthew also, and we are also curious about this block booking, that is a kind of new technique that you have in the other side of the world. So just get in and feel free. We are just opening the cages. Kate, can you tell us what because the conversation was going interesting.
Yeah, I can actually join two of my little chat lines together with this. So when we were talking about alliances, which I think is what we in the UK, I think we use the expression partnerships. I think that the positive side of this, as has been discussed in, you know, amongst us today, is that we are less guarding our own brand, less guarding our own kind of silos, and caring more about the audience, genuinely saying, right, these are the people who are suffering the most. How can we work together to make something, you know, wonderful happen? And so my example of that is this kind of cute idea that we came up with on a quick Zoom meeting, 5 o'clock one afternoon, whereby we said, right, when we do all of our Emergency Arts Council funding applications, which 4 organizations in my city were all doing in order to survive, why don't we just say, we'll each allocate 10% of our grant towards a partnership project, which is a creative learning project, which will impact it will be delivered to families who've been most impacted by COVID, so the most vulnerable families in our district. And then the local university backs that up by saying, and if the 4 organizations get their funding, then we will pay for and provide a digital intern to underpin and support that project. So that, you know, that gave some of us who felt less you know, confident about winning the emergency arts funding for whatever reason from the Arts Council much more welly. And so between us, like we galvanized to almost kind of, you know, force the arm of our regional Arts Council, and indeed we were all successful. But the other thing that I wanted to say was that then we got to the point of saying, well, what is this project? And, you know, we are all very audience facing now. We're all kind of looking deeply into the soul of our imaginary audiences who are no longer experiencing the beauty and wonder of our work. And there has been, and you know, an awful lot of knee-jerk kind of digital and/or kind of shoebox delivery projects that have been rolled out across our country, and they're all lovely and beautiful in their own way. But when we started to talk about what it was that we wanted to do, we then had to bring ourselves right back to asking about like the artistic integrity of the work that we want to put out there. So we found ourselves in a position where we were trying to produce a play in a box without human beings. But it was quite interesting because you can still put your personality inside a box, and you can put your artistic, you know, your artistic provocation and your artistic wonder and joy and aesthetic inside a box, and even hold a young person through a process without actually being in the room. And that's the process that we're going through at the moment with our project. But so my point is, we have to maintain our artistic rigor and integrity in all of this, rather than just saying we've got to reach them, we've got to reach them, we've got to reach them, because there's no good just reaching them with some really poor sort of instructional kind of educational teachery kind of material.
And Matthew also was sharing something, and then maybe we go to the secret block booking technique. Matthew, you fell down? He's not there anymore. Okay, great. It's block booking time. And then we can open the floor. If there are, I mean, I noted some questions, but if there are others, please use the chat to write, and we will listen to
Yes, I think block booking is something that for the chain reaction group, it's really interesting. So it's like alliances among yourselves, and also with other presenters, not just festivals. So I don't know, but Sarah perhaps then.
Or Spring, or
so I can start in Spring if you want to hop on too. Block booking is our life. You know, we're always Googling, doing Google Maps to see how far things are, and trying to get people in the right order, and that, so that we do a lot of that behind the work scenes as agents. And then we also work with some organizations. There's a consortium of presenters up in the Toronto area or in Ontario, the Ontario Presents, who have a meeting, a group of them will decide they're interested in a project, all come up with a weekly fee, and then they will work together to split that week up. So they pay a much lower cost depending on how many are part of the week. And I think the consortium, so one of you probably knows much better, but sometimes we work upwards with 7 or 8 venues, sometimes it's 3 venues, but it is a way of sharing the costs and helping an artist get to that region and having a fulfilling work there. And what they do some of the work that I don't see, that's, you know, going back and forth and saying, if 2 people really like a show, they try to get that third friend of saying, no, this is great, you should take another look at it, get excited about this artist, and become a stronger voice when we're planning the tour. Our state of North Carolina also works like that. They have a big meeting where venues come together and talk about different works, and then it happens informally in other places. Our Pacific Northwest is very far from many things. So that's another place where you really have to find a friend if you want to bring an artist who can't fly. Or even if the artist can travel by plane, the longer they're in a region, the better it is. Spring, do you want to add?
Yeah, I think it's really about relationships in a lot of ways, in the sense of like finding a friend becomes your lifeline. And maybe it's within your state, but maybe like Sarah said, if you're in the Pacific Northwest, for example, I might be block booking someone from California with someone in the state of Washington. That's not block booking in a traditional sense. They're not in a state consortium together, but they have similar interests and are at least all on the West Coast. So as Sarah mentioned, it makes the costs for that leg of the tour go down. We're always encouraging people to talk to each other. You know, I know that in the past there was kind of a guardedness, you know, that I think someone mentioned earlier, that sense of competition with other people. And, you know, no one wanted to talk about their fees. No one wanted to talk about their dates. And it really is a thing. If you can get enough people in a region interested, then everyone wins. You know, the artist can stay there longer. The costs go down for everyone. You know, and it becomes a thing of, we tend to work in weekly averages because we're trying to hit that average so the cost can kind of be, you know, amortized in the most even way. But yeah, it's all just about people talking to each other, and whether or not that's being driven by us or whether or not those are relationships that the presenters themselves hold. It's kind of a mutual effort.
Thank you. Just to refer that to something that happens in Europe is French people know something about that. France is also a country in which they tour a lot, and they have a kind of structured form or tool to develop and to empower this approach, because they have kind of Justin, tell me if it's correct. They have meetings that are regional meetings in which producers speaks about productions and speak one each other to convince colleagues to welcome a group. And in fact, also when you travel in France, you can see that this network approach is very applied, because they are really open to other countries' artists, and they have also funding to do that. So they structured that in a really structured way, because they have funding to spend time. I mean, if I understood well, in your country, you do it because you need it and you believe it's useful. In France, they do it because there is a structure that has been thought at 2 levels. That is, one, the artistical empowerment of the producers and delegates and directors, and also that is thought to nurture the artist languages. And the other level is the practical and economical and sustainable level. So it's kind of the same, but with the same difference that you have between your country and France, or what we have, for example, in Italy. My festival is existing from 15 years, and I'm struggling from the beginning to structure this network, to welcome artists from abroad and to share that with other theater. My colleagues knows that it's really difficult, because it's a matter of trust. if it's a matter of taste, and it's a matter of what you think and you believe it's interesting to propose to your audience. So the chain reaction process is also thought to empower and enrich our capacity to have the same language, or because the thing that I feel is the most important that is happening now is that we are listening each other and creating a kind of common language. Then with all the problem that we always have in communication, what we are doing is, as we are reading also in the chat, we are just understanding one each other, who you are, what do you want, if I really feel I can cooperate with you. So really the chain reaction process was born also to have a dialogue together, knowing that, for example, if we go concretely, we are at the moment 6 festivals, but we can't do block booking because I am in October. I can't ask a group to stay in Italy 12 months to travel through the festival.
Yes, so, Cristina, but that's why you need
exactly
alliances, the other presenters,
exactly
to make the connection. And remember, we've been talking, at least when I talk in this chain reaction and everywhere I talk, we that do international work need to keep pushing for the importance of intercultural work, intercultural international work. We have the issues of sustainability that are absolutely, it is our agenda. It's our public that is demanding that we talk about that. How are we going to do international work without flying, for instance? And the threat of nationalism, of people close.
In fact,
so it is really something that Sarah and Spring don't forget to add the sustainability aspect of the work you do. It is like a revolution. If I think festivals that only want to invite companies to come from down Patagonia, I hope you will invite, to come for 5 days, that's not going to happen anymore. Because even in Patagonia, they have heard that they shouldn't just fly for 5 days.
Even in Patagonia.
So these are things that are putting together solutions for the future. That we will be, if you thought in Norway, at the encounter of Assitej, would you think that we would have this kind of connection now and new ideas? You would not think. So it is happening.
So, but I will ask you something really concrete. Let's think that everything goes really well. In October, we find the vaccine, everyone open, and we start again traveling. So we have a festival, let's say in the beginning of October, okay? You receive an invitation to come to Italy, or to go to Greece, or whatever, let's say in France. Let's go. France is not the less representative today, so let's go to a French festival in October. I would love to know which are the, let's say, criteria to select if to go or not. You are able to do it. Huh? I mean, now frontiers are open, the virus isn't like a flu. Are you going to a festival? Which are the reason or your your criterias, or come si dice niente, I don't have the word even in Italian, I'm sorry. The selection criteria, la scala di valori.
Which are the
you have a programming limitation that keeps you out.
What?
Programming limitation. If your programming is limited, if you think that that's a way to not to come abroad.
Okay, so you may, one thing is maybe I'm not going because I can't program anymore, because I'm just having a programming that is a copy paste from the previous season. So I don't need to go to see other new projects. This is, for example, one thing. I mean, because we also need to think concretely, what are we doing in October? It's tomorrow. So this can be one problem. Other answer, who will go?
I think I would say, like, I think part of it for me would be about strategic priorities. And so who is going to be there? What work is going to be there? And I think in the same way that we just had the block booking conversation, I think presenters or people that are traveling have to think about, I can't just go to France for 4 days. But if there's something in France for 4 days and then something in Italy for 4 days, and then something, you know, and so I can have bigger impact because of these proximity of events. And so I think we have to think about impact, the impact of why are we going, like what is our intent? Of course, I would just love to go to Mantova for the food and the drink and the, but it has to be more than just the allure of traveling to different places.
Yeah, I was touching that because in the first meetings we were speaking, or I remember that I will tell you a story. I mean, maybe it's not that interesting, but I'll try to make it interesting. When we were together, me and Bebê and some of you, in Crocus Festival in February, the 24th of February. And we were presenting a panel about sustainability, intended also about footprint. And Bebê was there because of that, and I was there presenting the Chain Reaction project. Then I received a call from Bruno Frabetti from La Baracca, and he was telling to me, the festival Visioni in Bologna is cancelled. And I was telling everybody, I was like full of emotion, and I said, first of all, Visioni is cancelled. If you had a ticket, they are calling me to tell you not to go there, or don't book your ticket if you haven't, because the festival is cancelled. But I was really, it was coming from my heart, be aware that this is a big transformation that we need to face. And then it was this kind, I mean, I was not a Cassandra, nothing new. I mean, but this was telling me something more than a festival, than the virus, and it was already about what we are discussing now. And then the 28th, I was supposed to be a guest in Visioni Festival, and I called Bruno and Roberto, and I said, we were still available, we were still able to go by train. So I said, I will come to the festival, because in my agenda, I was here today. So I will come to the festival, even if the festival is not there. And we had an interesting conversation about the fact that maybe in the future, we said, okay, we will do something. We will do kind of a festival, and we will invite people to come to Mantova, and then we will bring them to Milano, and to make a tour in all the cities that had canceled festival, organizing a tour for people, even if there is not a festival, but a season, because sometimes, for example, who leads a festival is also a season, because where you have an audience, it's not only because of the festival, it's because there is a cultural offer. So relying on this cultural offer, like a l'onda, caspita, mi era venuta così bene, like a wave, we can invite you and come. So maybe this, I mean, this is thinking about what we do, or what we are talking about in the chain reaction process, but also that should be amazing to do, to come to North America and to have a kind of a book block booking tour for directors or for producers, because that was the idea inspiring the chain reaction visiting process. Because what I feel is that if I didn't spend time together with my colleagues, I will not book the same show. We don't have the same language. Sometimes I don't like the show that you like. Don't you feel that we are together, speaking together, and we say, oh yes, a show has to be that way. I like the show, oh, it's fantastic. And then you go and see it and say, oh, we were in the same mood, we were one person, and now she likes that show. It tells nothing to me. So this kind of thing can always happen. But if you have a long journey relation, you will program a show, because you don't program only what you like. It's part of a more complex process to decide what to program. And I think we need to empower this part of our work and this part of the relation. both digital and live, but maybe instead of going visiting one festival, we go making like 1 week tour in one country and visiting also seasons, because one problem, and then I open, because I would love to listen your answer. One problem is if you program what you have already programmed, or you stay in and visiting in a festival, you can't, or you want to program a show for more than 5 days. The tendency may be that what you are programming is also mainstream artists. Let's understand each other about mainstream, okay? It's a kind of one performance that fits to everybody. It's not bad, not good, not...
commercial, more commercial.
Yeah, yeah, more for everybody. Let's say more for everybody, common taste. But what about those projects that are very important because they are challenging us and the audience and dividing us, because those are the ones that can make the turning point. So, what about? Who has any answer or something to add?
I guess I would say that it's like, again, the conversations we've had, that there can't be one answer. Like, I think block booking helps with the popular, the certain kind of show that many people would be interested in. But I also don't think that we want to have what we would call like a cookie cutter template, that every festival has the same 10 shows that just travel around. I think there has to be individual taste. I think, you know, that's curating means caring for your own audience also. And so, of course, you would have your own aesthetic or your own reasons for programming certain work. But I think there can be different pockets. You know, when I was programming the Milk Festival in Toronto, I would have some projects I would share with Mary in New York and one other person because we had a similar aesthetic. And then there would be shows that would come to us that would travel to 20 other locations at the same time, you know. And so we had our own little different networks, but all kind of sharing in a similar way, just on a different scale, maybe.
But also, I think there's a difference between programming a festival or regular season.
Exactly. And what I think it can be interesting is to jump from one festival to one season, and that is something that we don't do that frequently. And the experience is, in my fantasy, it's to, I mean, if I had the time, I would love to organize a tour of delegates coming to Italy, coming to one festival, and then traveling, spreading around in Italy, and then coming together to another festival. This is my dream. And that should be interesting to be done in other countries also.
I would just add to this that you asked earlier if you could travel, would you? And I would just challenge everybody to think about ways of working that are inclusive with your local community of artists of different backgrounds and different colors and different everything. Because one of the things that we are hearing a lot is prepare yourselves, less Eurocentric work in the US. And I get that, because a lot of times when I've brought work from a particular country, it's an all-white team. It's a creative team, tech team, not just the faces on stage. And that's really not what I'm looking for right now. And we don't produce work, so I have to find work that is representative of my community. And so I would challenge everybody. I'm going to be looking at Ross once we're able to go again, hopefully as soon. I'm just going to be looking at what it is. I mean, if every single show is all about white people and white stories, There may be a place that's interesting within a whole season to put something, but it's definitely not going to be, you know, the majority of what I'm programming. And I think that there are opportunities for companies to look around in their communities and to reach out and make a real effort to find artists that are there. They just aren't on your radar, that could join your groups and could be part of the art making and telling the story of everybody in your community. That would be my challenge to everyone. You know, I think we have a program that we do for supporting new work development. And so we're trying to cultivate those stories and to get those pieces made. One of them, I'm hoping that Holden and Arts are going to put on their roster, but it's really for North America. If we're talking in this group about North America and what our challenges are right now, when the world comes back, we need to be very active in making it look different. And it's our power and our privilege and our responsibility to represent everybody who's in our audiences on our stages in one way or the other, and not just in historical sort of issue-based work, but just stories for everyone. That's what I would offer about what I'm going to be, what I hope happens when the world of theater reopens, that everybody's really sitting in this moment and thinking about what artists are you working with and how are you making your work. Still not to go, you know, to take away from your aesthetic and how you work. It's not that. It's really just about who else might I include that would really love to be at the table that hasn't been asked.
Absolutely, Mary. Let me just add this here, Cristina, excuse me. It is not so unsimilar here in Europe. If we see with the hand on the heart, how many festivals, you know, how the festivals kind of look alike. It's like all the white faces, very male, very white. And when I talk to because of course I'm here with the voice of Latin America, that's also something that is underrepresented in the global North. And I have heard so many times that in the States that, I cannot bring this to my public, for instance. Oh, my audience couldn't, you know, for taboos or for, you know, like there's this. And here in Europe, I feel, and it's terrible that to even think that I once was also a person who argued like this, real quality is in Europe. So you know, it took me a long time. I was socialized in German theater. I was a dancer in Brazil. Here I was theater, my socialization was in Europe. And I really was a person bringing German theater to Brazil, saying, or Danish theater saying, look, so much quality. You know, actually, if I would do it today, I would say, look how many professional artists that could be working for adults are working for children. Take courage on that, but not that the work is better than what we do. And I have heard enough times in the last 6 years that the company didn't quite make it. And this is really like, for me, we in Europe also have to see what are the because we are not only white in Europe, sorry.
That's what I told the people that were talking to me. I mean, we've had a lot of soul searching, certainly over the last few weeks, that deeper than maybe we've ever looked before. And the teaching artists that work with my organization were, you know, they were really going at the why I think this Eurocentric work is the greatest in all of the land. And I was like, I don't. I think, you know, there's good work everywhere, but about 30% of the work that I have presented in the past has been from Europe. And so I think that there are other ways to originate stories. I also think that even white stories like fairy tales or whatever, they don't have to be white. I mean, they could be, there's nothing that says you can't hire a Black director and Black artists to work on Little Red Riding Hood or whatever. You know, I mean, I think it's just about people just, you know, shifting and just, like I said, telling stories.
Yeah.
Just telling stories. Well, sure, they are white stories, Kate, but there's if that's all that they've got to work with, it doesn't mean they have to be limited. Of course, we want to originate stories from Black culture, and we're working on that, but we're not a producer. So all I can do is kind of encourage people and put money toward it. But meanwhile, I've got to put something on the stage.
I will give the floor to 2 questions because there were 2 hands raising. Mary Frances.
Hi, thanks. I'm Mary Frances Moore. I curate the Junior Festival in Toronto, which is what Boomer used to do when it was called the Milk Festival. So I don't want to repeat anything Boomer already said. But at Harbourfront Centre, we have 4 pillars that I have to program around. And so I have to program around an Anglophone Canadian experience, a Francophone Canadian experience, an international experience, and a First Nations Inuit and Métis experience. And right now, the First Nations Inuit and Métis experience is the predominant one that we program around. So when I go to something like Ipay or to any other showcase, I know how hard everybody's working, but as soon as it's an all-white cast, I'm immediately out. I can't program that. And whether it's an all-white cast with you know, it's just so challenging. And I think that these pillars really help us to be strategic because there's so much brilliant work that we see, but following those pillars allows me to just have that laser focus. But also because Canada is such a vast country, when we talk about block booking, a lot of our children's festivals happen within weeks of each other. I mean, my festival and Lynda's festival happen at the same time. And so we dance around each other, don't we, Lynda, trying not to step on each other's audiences, but also trying to figure out as we move forward where we can work together. But also because of those pillars, quite often it's a negotiation with other festivals across the country because we're so huge that if I like a show, you know, if Catherine in Ottawa or Catherine in Vancouver have to like it as well. So it's really challenging. It's exciting, but I think I'm excited to hear these conversations about not just being white stories or not just white creative teams, but I would also just, as people are on juries for showcases, as soon as we have an all-white cast, no matter what country it's from, I automatically am not able to program it. So I just wanted to offer that.
Interesting, because this is concretely different challenges that we face when we do our job as directors and curators. Your case is this one, but if we ask any of you, you will kind of explain which are your pillars that sometimes are smallest or details that makes the difference or impacts the programming in an important way. I think that I will put that under the umbrella that Boomer was drawing, that is the alliance of artistic taste that is made also from us. I mean, you were speaking about, Mary Rose, about raising proposal, helping proposal to raise and to trigger those kind of proposal. I think we can do a great job making alliance between our taste in raising this kind of production, because a lot of time we go to showcase or festival and we see a fantastic riding hood and I say like, oh, stop programming this, just, but it is so nice. I mean, I know, and then it is programmed and we have less space for other. So just provoking. I will give the floor to Dalia, but also provoke yourself, even if we have 3 minutes. So we want to have new programming and face the new, and we feel responsible, and I definitely agree with you, Mary Rose, and I sign everything. But what about the copy past season that we will have in 2021? Because of the, and where is the space for new production? Because we need to take care of this assignment we had with the past season. So this will be a kind of, there is a big question mark there. Dalia.
Sorry, it's just the last very few minutes, but I
just don't worry, you can, like, we give you 3 more.
To what Mary said, and of course we should look into balance, which was missing at large everywhere, but also to once we have it, to keep the balance, not to jump from one extreme into another, and taking into consideration how much of the Black people are in the arts education. That's where the fucking problem is. You know, like they're not there. And like in Sweden, you know how many Black people graduated in the dance school for 4 years? One, maybe. You know, so it's like, we have to really see all the fields of struggle and not also expect from ourselves and burden and try impossible things without giving, making impacts at right points and also giving it time to grow in. Otherwise, we're gonna produce all kinds of confusions. And let me tell you one thing, it's also easily cheatable, you know, that artist makes work illegible, then I'm gonna put another Black person in, and we have to also prevent that from happening. So that's a very delicate issue that is coming up these days, and I think we should really think not twice, not 3 times, but like every fucking time about really what each decision really makes, and how do we take care that we go deep and not superficial again, because otherwise we're going to dig up another hole that we're going to have to handle for centuries to come. Sorry, that's what I wanted to add.
It's not bad as a conclusion, but Franz wants to add something. Go ahead, Franz.
I absolutely agree with Dalia. I think that's a terrible preoccupation. I think that could be something to be worried of. I just wanted a little put aside this and come back to the book blocking. I think that this chain reaction should be the possibility of of alliance between festival and showcases and regular season, because this is the difference. Because you cannot have the alliance between only festivals unless you want to make the same festival all over, and that's not something that we need. I think that the alliance, the strong alliance, could be between festivals or showcases and regular seasons. That's how we can book blocking very well.
Cristina, just the last word. You can give the last word, but I have to say this here. The ball is on the court of the presenters to program diverse work, to present other bodies that only white bodies, to present other regions. We are responsible to make the condition. We have to look extra. We need to do it. And I have, you know, like, don't give excuses anymore. We have been coming to the global north. We have been coming, you know, Fita Chile and in a cradle of creativity. There's, I'm talking about the international market, but of course, this is valid for any local and even more. And this is a chance now. It is a chance for us to pack this subject in this way. I recommend you tremendously to see all the webinars that are being now in the United States, giving room to Black artists to talk, to critics, it is amazing. It is something, I mean, I'm there all the time. I had never heard that point of view. Trust me, we're missing something here. You are missing something. So just do it. You know, and it's in your court. It's not like there is amazing work everywhere. It's not only in the Scandinavian countries, believe me.
Yes, we know.
So I'm sorry, I have to be pamphletarian here.
But Bebe, you did it well, and we do agree definitely with all what you said. And but I think that we will start to take care of that in different level with biodiversity that we have. And but I think that this will be in our brain, let's say. And I hope that this new time will bring us also this reflection with us. So time is
maybe all the programmers that have been canceled their next season can have the chance to travel all over and see what else happened in a whole year of canceling.
Exactly, with transformation. So thank you, everybody. Really, it was really an inspiring meeting. We changed everything, but we were right, Bebe. I think, and I hope you had inspiration. I'm really thanking you, everybody.